and welcome to Your Coaching Journey, a podcast for doctors about coaching. Whether you're a coaching doctor, a doctor who is learning to coach, or a doctor who would like to build coaching into your professional life, then this is the podcast for you. Hi, I'm Helen Leathers, and with me today is my business partner and podcast co-host, Tom Dillon. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Good morning. Do you know, I'm feeling a bit rough.
Oh, my goodness.
It had to happen one day, didn't it?
Yeah. Everyone's going to be in shock now.
They are, yes.
Do we need to...
But I'm fine. I'm fine to sit still and talk.
Okay, that's great.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
I'm great, actually.
Good. So what are we talking about today, Helen?
Well, today I thought we might share a demonstration of coaching with our listeners.
Excellent.
Because I know that we've talked about this before, off air as it were, and people have always asked us, where can we find good coaching demonstrations? And
we really struggle, don't we?
Yes, I was hesitating
we
there.
We scour YouTube looking for really good demonstrations.
And oftentimes there's lots of closed questions, and it's maybe directive, and it's not how we would advocate or train people to coach. So we're going to demonstrate what we believe is good coaching practice and take you through a coaching conversation today.
Yeah, and obviously we'll be using Tom's code because
Yes.
that's the coaching model that we train people on. So there might be some things that people will look out for to see. I'm going to be coaching you. So, and hopefully demonstrating good coaching. So what things might people want to look out for within the coaching as an exemplar of good coaching?
Okay, so no pressure, Tom. But what we want to see, and what we say to all our students, what we'd like to see are good, crisp, clear questions that are open. We want to see lots of space for the coachee to think to the end of their thoughts and to express themselves fully. And the third part is the playing back.
Which is really important.
Really important, absolutely. So really listen out for those things, and we'll be following Tom's code, which we spoke about in a previous episode, and we'll link to that in the show notes for those of you maybe who are just joining us and would like to know more about that. So, shall we start?
Let's get started, yes.
We've got about 20 minutes today to give some thought to something, and I'm curious to know what it is you'd like to give some thought to.
This is something I've given thought to in my own head for many years, and I am considering a yoga teacher training course. I started one last year, and it's not right for me, the course that I'm on. And I always potentially knew that it could not be right. So I think I've decided not to continue with that particular course. And now I'm looking at another one that's cropped up, and I'm thinking that's doable. But actually, I'm in two minds as to whether to just go for it or shelve the idea completely.
So yoga training is the topic of conversation. That's what you'd like to give some thought to. And at the moment, having started one course that isn't right for you, there's another course that's you're aware of, and you're just wondering whether that would be the right thing. So it's that indecision about whether to go for that one or not. So thinking about our time together today, by the end of our session, what would you like to have?
I think I'd like some clarity around, should I shelve the idea and maybe come back to it later? Or should I just go for it, really? So it's about clarity so that I can make a firm decision and stop that constant thinking and overthinking in my head.
Yeah. So there's two bits to it. So that one is the clarity over whether to actually do the course or whether, I mean, you said shelve it and maybe do it at a later point. So it sounds like you're fairly sure this is the right course, but just not whether the time is right?
I think it's the right course if I want to do it now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to do it later?
If I decided to come back and do it later, then I'd probably look around at that point in the future.
So it's about whether you make the decision now to go ahead with this course or just kind of revisit the whole idea further down the line. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And if you had that clarity by the end of our time together today, what would that give you?
I think it would give me some headspace, because I've been thinking and contemplating this for a couple of weeks, this particular dilemma for a couple of weeks, since I decided not to continue with the first course I started, and then discovered this other one. So I think it would just give me that peace of mind instead of constantly, revisiting it.
Yeah. And just thinking about the importance of this to you, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is it's very trivial and 10 is no, it's very important to me, where would you put yourself on that scale?
I think I would actually say coming to that conclusion is an 8 or a 9, probably a 9, because it's taking up a lot of headspace at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So it's important to you. A good topic to give some thought to.
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned that you've already started a course. It's not the right course. And now you've looked around and you found another course. So tell me more about what's going on for you in relation to your yoga training at the moment.
So yoga training is something that I've considered ever since I first started learning yoga. And it's not necessarily to be a yoga teacher. It's more, as a lot of people do their sort of early stage yoga training, it's about deepening their understanding of the practice, deepening and developing their own practice. And also I love learning. But I think more recently I've been thinking about it because it's a qualification that's around body movement, postural alignment, and I use embodiment work in my coaching practice already. And I felt that it would fit really nicely together. So as well as for me, it would also help with my work, I think. So that's been going on in my head. And so that's why I started this particular course, but it's an online course. About a third of it is live workshops, where I haven't actually attended any of them because they're in America. So I need to schedule those. And those live workshops are about the sort of physicality of it. And I don't feel like what I'm getting from the course will give me the confidence it will give me a piece of paper. Right. It won't necessarily give me the knowledge and confidence in the physical side that I'm looking for.
Yeah. And you said this is more about deepening your understanding and maybe using some of that physical movement, that embodiment in your coaching work. So it's not about the piece of paper, but it's about you deepening your understanding and being able to talk to other people in an informative way about it.
Yeah. And there's another thing that's cropped up for me, actually, just in the last couple of days, is that because I have decided to do a master's degree next year in applied positive psychology, and I discovered that there's quite a lot of positive psychology and yoga research that's been done. And it just fleetingly crossed my mind, so it's now hovering there, to that if I had a yoga teacher training qualification, it would give me another option at the end of that master's in terms of what my final dissertation would be about.
Okay. Yeah.
Because if there was an option to do a training course or a piece of research, if that's the route I took, around physical movement, in order to do that, I'd either have to engage a teacher or do it myself. And obviously, if I'm qualified, I could do it myself. So it's just a little thing, but it was something that popped into my head.
Yeah, and something else that's coming up there in terms of the timing of this, and you said that some of your thinking was around whether to do this now or to shelve it and do it at a later date. It sounds as if you've got a big learning project next year coming up anyway. So if you were to shelve this and do it later, when might you do that?
Well, that's the thing. So shelving it and doing it later would mean I would be, I'm thinking after masters,
Right. Okay.
getting on into my late 50s. And that's the other thing, is that you can do yoga at that age, but I'm already a lot less flexible than I was when I first started doing yoga at 18. So, that's something that I need to consider as well.
Yeah. So it sounds as though there's a lot in favour of you doing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And what would you like to have happen?
When I think about it, I just keep seeing me in a studio with people. And I don't know necessarily what that particularly means, whether that's just me practicing yoga or me on a course, but it definitely, I want to continue my yoga practice and I want to develop it and progress in it. And I want it to be more of an integrated part of my life. Yeah, I suppose the question is whether that course is part of that integration.
Yeah. So let's try and clarify that then. So you can certainly see yourself in a classroom with other people and practicing yoga, but you're just not sure whether at the moment that training is part of that integrative practice. So, and thinking about the options that you have, obviously the course that you've mentioned in Birmingham is an option, and the option to do it now. You've got the option to shelve it and revisit the whole thing further down the line after your master's potentially. What other options do you have?
Well, to not do it at all.
Okay, that's an option.
Yeah, and I think that's what I need to decide is if I never did it, would it be a problem?
So that's another option, not to do it at all. And that's something to think about. What other options do you have?
Well, the other option would be to continue with the course that I've done something of, but that excitement isn't there. Okay. So even just thinking about it, that excitement isn't there. And when I sat down to do some of the study a couple of weeks ago, it felt like it was going to be hard work. It didn't feel exciting.
Okay, but that's still an option.
Still an option
for the moment.
Yeah.
And what else might you do?
I mean, there's a possibility that you could look for other courses, but I've kind of done that research and felt that this one was the one that would be good now. So I've kind of explored that.
But potentially you could extend your research. That is another option.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So we've got a number of options there. So one is obviously to do the course. Another is just to not do anything at the moment. Another one is to carry on with the course that you've got. Another one is to extend your research to see if there's anything else that's suddenly available that you might take up. And thinking about each of those options, you've mentioned that the course you're on at the moment doesn't fill you with excitement.
That's a real zero.
Yeah. Okay. So that doesn't sound like a viable option. It sounds as though you've done the research you want to do and you're not particularly excited about going back and doing more research.
Well, yeah. And I think if I shelved it and looked at it in the future, then maybe I'd be in a position where I was going to say, right, I'm just going to take a month out and go to Bali. But that's not something that I particularly want to or can do now.
But you mentioned taking a month out and go to Bali. How exciting is that as an idea?
I think that is exciting, but it's like It's just not something I see myself doing right now.
Okay. So if it's going to be right now, it's sort of this course or not this course.
That's how it feels. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that not doing it at all. I suppose if I said, right, that's it, I'm not going to finish it, I'm not going to do it, there would be an element of relief, but I will always have I've always wanted to do this. This has always been hanging around. This has been hanging around for 30 years. So is it going to go away? Is it just going to keep coming back?
And it sounds as though some of that...
Scratch that itch.
It sounds as though some of the relief is about the course you're on at the moment, if you don't have to finish that one. And what you aren't aware of yet is whether that excitement that you felt about doing this course, if you shelve that for a later date, whether you would still feel that sense of relief about shelving that. So let's explore that for a moment. So let's imagine that you have made that decision. So you're no longer, it's off the table for now. You're doing your masters next year. So the idea of doing some yoga training is at least a couple of years away. Yeah. Just sit with that for a moment. Just close your eyes for a moment. Just sit with that idea. I'm no longer doing it. It's 2 years away. And just breathe into that. And how does it feel to sit with that thought?
It feels okay. But it feels like I've missed out on something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's just do that again with the idea of going to Birmingham and completing this course, 3 weekends, 6 days. Let's make that decision now. That's exactly what you're going to do. You've made the decision. You're going to be doing that course. Just sit with that for a moment and breathe into that. See you smiling. How does that feel?
I'm smiling because this little voice in my head says, and it doesn't stop you going to Bali for a month.
Yeah, well, Bali could be an option further down the line.
There's different levels of yoga training, we can always progress.
Yeah, but for now, because this is the immediate issue we're facing, isn't it? Of whether to do this now or shelve it for a future date. So how does that feel to sit with that idea of doing this training in Birmingham now?
It feels quite exciting. I think whereas continuing with the course I'm on is like a 0 out of 10, this feels like a 7 or 8.
Okay, so that's a big improvement on 0.
Yeah, and shelving it felt like a 4 or 5.
Okay.
In feeling in how I'm reacting. It's that kind of order of things.
But 7 or 8 isn't a 10. What would move it from a 7 or 8 to a 8 or 9?
Firstly, I need to sort some things out in my diary because I've managed to clash something and it is only 3 weekends. So that's easily doable. That would move it to an 8.
Okay, so resolving issues within your diary would move it to an 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would need to happen in order to move it to a 9?
What would move it to a 9? Do you know, I think it's probably just about giving myself permission.
Okay.
That idea that you've already spent money on something. And when I spent money on the online course, it was on offer. It was a really, really ridiculously cheap deal. And I always said, I should just listen to myself really, because I always said, if I don't finish this course, I'll still have learned something and it's cheap.
Yeah.
So at the time I was looking at other courses that were 10 times as much. It was 200 quid versus 2,000. This course in Birmingham is only 1,000. So I have learned something from this course, and part of that learning is that it's not the right one for me.
I probably just need to give myself permission, because we're really rubbish, aren't we, at stopping something because it feels like a failure.
Yeah. And also
And
you've
doing
invested
something else.
time and money in that.
Yeah.
That always feels a tricky thing to sort of pause that and go off in a different direction, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I think I need to give myself permission that it's okay to do that, and it's not a failure. It's just it's just different.
So it sounds like this is definitely the choice in terms of you being excited about it, and we're almost at a 10. We're at a 9, which I think is probably close enough to a 10 to take this forward. So what, in terms of moving this on, what's your next step as far as this course is concerned?
My next step would be to contact the company, because they do an instalment plan, and in order to do that, I need to speak to them rather than sign up online. So I need to speak to them about how that would look.
Good. And in taking that next step and getting in touch with the company, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is, no, I'm never going to do it, I'm still just as conflicted, and 10 is, no, I have some clarity, I'm going to take that next step. Where are you on that scale?
I think I'm a 10.
Excellent.
I'm a
Good.
10.
Very good. Sounds very exciting. So just thinking about the conversation that we've had and just drawing it to a close, what do you know now that you didn't know at the beginning of our conversation?
I know that this is something that's not going to go away, that it's been with me a long time, and that I think this will help me fulfill a part of me and part of where I want to go and who I want to, the type of person I want to be. So I think that, yeah, those feelings that I had in terms of kind of visiting those thoughts and potential outcomes or potential options definitely told me that it's right.
Very good.
Yeah.
Lovely. How would it be if we left that conversation there, Helen?
It's good.
Good.
It's good. Thank you.
Good. I look forward to hearing all about your adventures in your yoga training.
So there we are. There's a demonstration of coaching, how we train people to coach.
I thought you did it really well.
Hopefully. I'll listen back and make sure I did it really well. But it seemed to go well. And it was a genuine topic that you wanted to explore.
Yeah.
So,
I think one thing that I would like to say is, obviously we know each other really well, and I wouldn't want people to go away thinking, oh, I can coach my partner on this, that or the other. If this works because you had no attachment to the outcome, quite frankly, you didn't care about my decision.
Of course I care about your decisions.
You know what I mean,
I'm very invested in your decision. But I was happy for you to decide what you wanted to do.
Absolutely. So if you go into a situation thinking, I'll coach my partner or my sister because I want to get her to do this, that's not going to work. You need to have no attachment to the outcome and just hold that space in the same way that you would for anyone else.
Yeah, and I do find that family members and close friends tend to be a little bit contrary. They don't respond in the way that a normal coachee would. So, yeah.
But having said that, it was a genuine topic for coaching, and I thought it went rather well.
Yeah, good. We'll see what people think. Let us know.
Absolutely. So, as I say, we're going to link to Tom's code in the show notes as well. So if you want to, you can listen back and see how it follows along with that pattern. So next time on the podcast, Tom, what are we talking about?
Next time, it's very exciting next time. We have another one of our coaching doctors that we're going to interview.
Ooh.
So we're going to be interviewing Dr. Caroline Walker from The Joyful Doctor,
Lovely.
who we know very well, and it's going to be lovely to have a chat with her about her coaching approach.
Brilliant. So tune in to listen to Caroline and us next time on the podcast. And don't forget that you can subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes at all.
Excellent. Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, Tom. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.